of this particular week. It is the 10th day of September 2024. It has been a day of mourning for the past few days since the Hillside and Arusha Academy school fire, a fire that engulfed a dormitory and, of course, claiming the lives of 21 students so far. Now, according to government spokesperson Isaac Maura who spoke yesterday, all 164 students who were housed in that particular dormitory have been accounted for. Now, 19 of them died during that particular inferno and were burnt beyond recognition, while 2 more succumbed to their injuries while in hospital. Now, this even as questions continue to linger in regards to the safety of students across various schools. In the country, we've witnessed deadly school fires, school infernos, and of course the most dreadful one being the one in Kingoli Boys High School, which claimed 67 lives. Now, what has the government been doing in regards to the safety of students across the country? Remember, there have been task forces formed to look into the matter. And for example, there was a task force formed in 2016 and chaired by Claire Omolo that was formed to look into the issue of school infernos. Now, they came up with recommendations, and in their findings, they cited various reasons as to why there were very many cases of school infernos. Now, the question is, have those recommendations been adhered to? Have they been implemented? Have the issues that were raised in their report been addressed? Now, we seem to be a country that dwells so much in the formation or constitution of task forces to look into issues. We are not serious when it comes to implementing the reports of those particular task forces. Now, the Auditor General's report in 2020, and in fact, signed by Auditor General Nancy Gadengo on the 22nd of September 2020, indicated that there were serious concerns in terms of preparedness by various schools to such occurrences. Now, it is 4 years later. We are back to the drawing board. What next? Not only for the government, but for parents. Because millions of parents out there remain concerned of their children's safety. And as a parent, as you send your child to school, you hope that he or she is in the most safe place in the country. But what happens when your child is burnt beyond recognition? We, of course, condole with the parents who lost their students in that particular inferno. And more concerning is the fact that these were young students belonging to grades between grade 5 to grade 8. Now, the cause of the fire has not been conclusively spelled out, but they say it could have been an electrical fault. Now, could it be a case of negligence? And if so, who should be held accountable? Is it a failure on the part of the school administration and the Ministry of Education at large? And if so, will the law follow its course? We'll be talking matters, the school infernos here in the country, as we speak about state of education in the country, even amid the continued impasse on the new university funding model. But most importantly is the issue of school infernos, because after that particular incident in Nyeri County, we've seen a series of school dormitories being burnt, and that includes Isiolo Girls High School, Gia Boys High School, among other institutions. And that again raises concerns in terms of what could be causing these fires. And takes us back to the implementation of the task force report on the causes, solutions, and recommendations in regards to addressing this matter once and for all. Now, welcome to the new dawn. I am Ian Keitani, and remember, you can watch this particular morning show live across our social media platforms at K24 TV. Now, apart from the issue of education, acting IG Gilbert Masengeli is a man on the spot, a man who is supposed to help enforce the law. Is not taking the same law seriously after missing court sessions for the 7th time yesterday, and he was found guilty of course, not adhering to or disobeying court orders after he was summoned by Judge Lawrence Mugambi. And for the 7th time yesterday, like I said, he failed to appear. He was found guilty, and his sentencing is set for Friday. And he's not the first one. Various top government officials have been accused of failing to respect, of course, court rulings, and even though they've been summoned before, they have not appeared before the said courts. And top on the list as well is the former CS for Interior, Fred Matiang'i, was once summoned but failed to honor those summons. Now, we cannot talk about respecting the rule of law if the same people who are supposed to uphold the said rule of law cannot respect. We'll be waiting to see what the court will say, and Judge Lawrence Mugambi will issue in terms of sentencing to the acting DIG. Some lawyers say he should be declared unfit to hold public office. Only time will tell. Now, on that note, I just want us to have a look at what's making headlines in the news this particular morning, on a day that, like I said, we'll be dwelling on matters state of education. Now, thank you very much yet again for making time to be with us this particular morning. Let's have a look at the news items making headlines. And like I said, you can as well watch this particular morning show live across our social media platforms at K24 TV. Now, the scientific identification process for the bodies of 19 pupils from Hillside Academy who tragically died in a fire has begun at Narumoro Level 4 Hospital in Nyeri County. According to Acting Central Regional Commissioner Pius Murugu, all the 164 pupils in the dormitory at the time of the incident have been accounted for. Mariam Mujahid with the details.
During a press briefing, Acting Regional Commander of Central Pius Murugu and Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahiga reassured parents, noting that DNA samples had been smoothly collected from the families of the deceased to facilitate identification.
The site were beyond recognition. They need a very, very specialized processing so that we can be able to account for everybody.
The government, in support of all disaster management committees, has revealed all students who are present in the ill-fated dormitory of Hillside and Arasha Academy have been accounted for.
At the moment, I would like to state that we have been able to account for all the boys who are in that dormitory. As you know, we are 164. And here in this hospital, the bodies which were brought here are 16.
Nyeri County Boss Mutahi Kahiga has further ordered public departments to survey the safety standards of boarding schools to prevent similar tragedies in the future.
We have also requested and asked all organizations, including this hospital, that we must be performing fire drills. A fire drill is a mock where you practice what would happen if a fire came. Because we realize that had there been mocks like that in schools or something, it would not have been where we are.
Government pathologist Johansen Oduor will lead the DNA matching and sorting, which will be conducted tomorrow, Tuesday. Post-mortem to establish the cause of death for investigation purposes will be done on Wednesday. The fire, which claimed 21 lives, is still under investigation. The government has since pledged to cover burial costs and medical expenses for those hospitalized. Mariam Jahid, K24 Nyeri.
Now, still on the same issue is that parents who were distraught over missing children say they are contented with the process of body identification after all 164 students of the Hillside and Arasha were accounted for. John Mwangi, a parent from the school who has lost his son and has been a member of the school for 4 years, takes us through the process of DNA sampling that was held throughout the day yesterday at Narumoro Level 4 Hospital in Nyeri County.
At the Narumoro Level 4 Hospital mortuary, a heavy silence fills the air as parents of Hillside and Arasha Academy students who succumbed after Thursday devastating fire slowly make their way through the gates. Faces etched with grief, they gather in small groups, clinging to each other for comfort as the unbearable reality begins to sink in. For many, the weight of the uncertainty is too much to bear. Some weep quietly, while others stand in stunned silence, their hearts shattered by the thought that their sons may never come home. John Mwangi, A parent who lost his 11-year-old son, Ernest Ngaruya, in the Thursday Inferno expressed relief that the Kenya Red Cross and DCI officials had been more communicative and supportive on this day.
Said that it will be well being done from the mother of the kid because of the probabilities, because the mother has the highest probability. So I was there supporting my wife in the whole process. So the registration takeover, and then from there we were briefed about how it is going to be done. Today is sampling. Tomorrow we will be sorting out. Post-mortem will be done on Wednesday.
He also explains the process of DNA sampling that was conducted today at Naramoru Hospital Level 4.
It is swabbing, like the one that will be done at COVID. Then from there we went to where the swabbing was being done. The sample was taken, another registration was done, and you are also being asked, do you have anything that could be permanently beyond the kid that can be able to identify it faster?
John has also refuted concerns that there could be a higher number of students who are still missing, saying all parents who are affected were today present for the DNA.
Even the parents that came, ourselves, we were 15, and the 4 parents also were called and confirmed attendance, and I think 2 came later, and I think the remaining with only 2 that really were not able to make it, or the parents is not there, but now they have to go to the next step of the next of kin of the mother and all that. So we were the same number, the number that was expected of the missing bodies.
Parents are now urging policymakers to ensure their recommendations are followed through to the latter to avoid catastrophic incidences in schools.
The school and the county government education sector and also everybody who is concerned with the welfare of our children should have been keen enough to go and inspect. At the same time, have a way of, in case of a disaster, how would our kids respond? I believe that is a way to go.
It will be a month of agony for the parents of the deceased Hillside and Arusha Academy students as they await to bury their loved ones. Mariam Jahid at Naramoru Level 4 Hospital in Nyeri County.
Of course, Mariam Jahid has been pitching tent at Hillside and Arusha Academy for the past 3 days, and she will continue to be there just to make sure you are either posted or informed on what is happening in that particular part of the country. Let's talk matters of school preparedness, and Kenyan schools are ill-prepared to handle fire outbreaks. This is according to a report released by the Auditor General, which gives a damning indictment of the state of Kenyan schools, citing inadequate infrastructure, limited training on fire safety preparedness, and insufficient guidance and counseling. Wumbi Ombugu tells us more.
In the wake of the Ndarasha Hillside School fire tragedy that claimed the lives of 21 pupils, a damning report by the Auditor General has put the many schools on the spot over their unpreparedness to handle fire emergencies. According to the findings, out of 42 schools surveyed, only a few met the required safety standards. 70% of national schools have fire extinguishers, compared to only 54% in county schools. In 22 schools inspected, doors were improperly hinged to open inward, which is against the law. Many schools have only one exit in dormitories, while the policy recommends 2 doors at opposite ends. 6 out of the 42 schools surveyed had triple-deck beds, even though the regulations only allow for 2 tiers. The research further highlights gender disparities, noting that girls' schools are not adhering to fire safety protocols as required. In terms of firefighting equipment, 96.3% of national schools are equipped with fire extinguishers, while only 59.9% of sub-county schools have them. According to the 2020 School Safety Report, the design of dormitories and the arrangement of bed do not meet the recommended safety standards. Despite these policies being in place, the Ministry of Education acknowledges that the main challenges lies in their enforcement. Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migos has to this end emphasized that while policies exist, inadequate enforcement has left many schools vulnerable. Additionally, the Ministry of Health plans to conduct health inspections in schools to ensure compliance with safety regulations. Mombi Wambogo, K24 TV.
On to a very concerning story, and the High Court in Nairobi yesterday afternoon found Acting Inspector General of Police Gilbert Masengeli guilty of contempt of court. Masengeli, as for the 7th time, failed to honor summons requiring to answer to the whereabouts of the 3 Kitengela abductees, much to the dismay of the courts and the civil society. Also summoned by Judge Lawrence Mugambi is SGB VIP Unit Commandant Lazarus Opicho, who will now be required to explain why he called his bodyguard and his driver to establish his whereabouts. And as Martin Opio now reports, their sentencing will be made on Friday this week.
After cat-and-mouse games between the courts and the Acting Inspector General of Police, Judge Lawrence Mugambi had enough of the snub by Gilbert Masengeli, who for the 6th time failed to honor court summons. He was expected to appear over the last 2 weeks, but on different occasions, the state was told that he was out of town on various engagements. On Monday, the acting IG opted to head to Wajir while courts were waiting for his appearances. In his place, his deputy Eliud Langat was present. Calls from LSK was rife that the court holds Masengeli in contempt of court with a 6-month prison and a fine deducted directly from his salary.
The request for stay is one that is objected to for 2 reasons. A conviction for contempt of court is in the nature of a criminal conviction. Constitutional order or summons undermines the principle of rule of law and Article 10(2)(b, and the failure to attend court to explain circumstances surrounding the disappearance of 3 petitioners undermines the principle of accountability by a public officer and institution. Ends of institutions must now be held accountable for ensuring constitutional values and principles are adherent to, particularly on a matter of human rights and the rule of law.
Masengeli was required to avail himself before the court on Monday, September 9th, 2024, over the disappearance of 3 people in Kitengela. In an afternoon session, the High Court found the acting police IG Gilbert Masengeli guilty of disobeying court orders. Justice Lawrence Mugambi argued that impunity and open defiance cannot be allowed.
First respondent, Acting Inspector General of Police, is guilty of contempt of court, and the court ought to punish him accordingly.
The judge maintained that disobedience of court orders continues to place activist Bob Njagi and brothers Aslam and Jamil Longton lives in danger.
We still do not know the whereabouts of Jamil, Aslam and Bob Njagi. The families have come to this honorable court all this time seeking for their loved ones. We urge that the Acting Inspector General to obey court orders, to realize that he is a creature, the public office he holds is a creature of the same law, is a creature of the same constitution, and to ensure that we maintain law and order in this nation, in this country, as they demand the people of Kenya to also obey court orders, to summons when they are summoned before any of the National Police Service agents, then they too must obey those same court orders.
The courts at the same time summoned the commandant of the SGP VIP unit, Lazarus Opicho, where he will be tasked with explaining why he called his bodyguard and his driver to establish his whereabouts.
The court would like to note that there has been unbecoming conduct by a senior police officer, the former JPU commandant, Lazarus Opicho, now the head of VVIP protection unit in the police, which the court considers as bordering on intimidation. I thus order that Mr. Lazarus Opicho be and is hereby summoned to explain the conduct that included calling my bodyguard and the driver, trying to ascertain my whereabouts behind my back. I also need to ascertain what the reasons behind such an inquiry and many other concerns.
Both Masengeli and Opicho are set to know their sentence this Friday. Martin Opio, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Just a case of an officer gone rogue. Now, the government plans to reduce the tax rate in the medium term in a bid to stimulate the economy and in return take a racking more revenue. This is according to National Treasury CS John Mbadi. This, according to CS John Mbadi, will, for instance, see the value-added tax reduced from 16 to 14% and corporate tax reduced from 30% to 25%. At the same time, the CS has warned all accounting officers against seeking more money for travel and hospitality in strict adherence to the austerity measures aimed at curbing wastage.
1, and now you can press. That is, wow.
The 2025-2026 budget preparation process has officially been launched by the National Treasury. With fears that a money bill would accompany the next budget, the Treasury boss John Mbadi, however, promises a more friendly tax environment in what he says will be a reduction of taxes.
I will surprise you. In the medium term, we want to reduce tax rates. We are not thinking of increasing tax rates. We are going to reduce VAT in the medium term from 16% to about 14%. We want to reduce other taxes, including corporation tax or corporate tax, from 30 to 25%, and even pay as you earn.
Prudent use of resources has been emphasized to avoid wastage while sealing revenue leakages.
From this year, we are not going to assume you have been spending this much so we can add you. We are moving away from incremental budgeting to zero-based. You start afresh. Explain every expenditure, every coin that you are going to ask for. You will have to explain any additional expenditures, especially in areas like hospitality, foreign travel, domestic travel, conferences. Please don't bring any request to Treasury for adjustments in those lines. They will not be approved.
The delayed disbursement of the equitable share to counties also emerged as the Council of Governors Chair Anne Waiguru lamented on the sorry state of counties. The much-awaited moment could be closer than imagined as the Treasury is keen to release the money despite delays by Parliament to approve the County Allocation Revenue Act due to withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024.
As we speak, counties are in arrears about 3 months with about 96.35 billion that hasn't been released to the counties, which is hampering service delivery.
I sought opinion of the Attorney General today to agree with us that we can make advance payments to counties. There are divided opinion whether we should do that or not. But I think if we don't, counties are going to grind to a halt. And I don't think that would be good for this country.
Budget Chair Ndindi Nyoro on his part is calling for a widened tax base to rope in the informal sector in order to match countries such as South Africa in revenue generation.
South Africa is around 25%. Meaning if we collected revenue the same way South Africa is collecting, this financial year we will be collecting 4.5 trillion Kenya shillings as revenue in our country. And therefore it means we will not be borrowing a single shilling. We will actually be retiring debts previously borrowed.
Joel Chacha, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Well, it will be interesting to see whether CPA John Mbadi will be able to pull that particular move. Now, those were the news making headlines this particular morning, but we'll be, of course, talking matters of state of education here in the country this particular morning. And my panelists are already here. I'm joined by Mr. Bozuruku, who is an education expert, Dr. Christine Ombraka, the woman representative of Siaya County, and former NAT Secretary General Wilson Susion. We're taking a brief break. We'll be back with what is making headlines in the local dailies before we jump straight into the big conversation. Don't go away.
Step into a world of emotions. relationships.
Kumbe mama, ulikuwa unafikiria kuolewa tena? Yaani unijali hata kidogo, wewe ni mbaya.
Dilemmas and complexities of life.
Mwanamke hamhitaji mwanaume ili aweze kuwa rafiki.